Alright, got a Kohler 7000 series motor. This is going to be the same if it's a Kohler Courage. Got to do a new carburetor on it. Fuel tank got water in it and it's rusted up the carburetor. So the carburetors on these. And there's one important thing that you need to do, and I'll go ahead and show you that. On these aftermarket carburetors, okay, you see that little metal tab right there? What happens is it gets hung up and your choke won't close all the way. And so there's a piece of the linkage it gets hung up on. So if you decide, well, I don't need to wash this, I'll go ahead and install it. Well, let me just go ahead and show you. You need to cut it as far back to the corner of this plastic as you can. You see it, that tab. Well, on this side of it, the end of it is where it gets hung up on the linkage and it prevents it from closing up. So you want to cut it to where just a sliver of this black plastic stops on it. So now, as far as getting to it, go ahead and take your air filter out, and you will be hard pressed to find an air filter that bad. It's rough, buddy. Alright, and then you got a series of 8mm screws here, here, and then you got two in the back. So just take those 8mm screws out. You don't have to take the fuel line off the fuel pump yet, don't worry about that, but you got a 10mm screw that goes here and here. It sits like that. Take those two 10mm out, and of course you got your fuel pump line right here. I'm going to have to replace this one, it's so roughed up. And then once you do that, this top will slide on off. Make sure you check for those things. Looky there. Let me take care of that real quick. Alright, got old red walls took care of, and you're gonna, to finish taking this thing off, alright, you're gonna have these little plates. You're gonna have one here and here. Alright, you're gonna have a 10mm bolt here and here, and then an 8mm bolt here, and then that'll come off. And then exact same thing on this side. And then you'll have two 10mm nuts. You'll have one. I'll turn the light on this thing. Okay. You'll have a 10mm nut on this stud here and here. Zip those off. And then they'll pull off. Alright, there's going to be some hoses connected to it. Just let that pull out from the engine, and then you ain't got to worry about the rest of that. Just set it to the side. Okay. Now, I had to build a new wiring harness for this engine. Therefore, I've deactivated the anti-backfire solenoid down here. I would suggest you do the same thing on yours, whether you're doing the factory harness or not. Which, if you work on your own stuff, it ain't a big deal. It's just that, assuming you're buying an aftermarket carburetor, these anti-backfire solenoids, they don't last with the flip. And so, you know, bad to leave you stranded somewhere. So for me, I'm not even going to worry about this wiring here. I'm literally just going to cut it here. But if you are reconnecting your anti-backfire solenoid, you're just going to take the Phillips, and you can either unscrew it here or undo it here, and then just unplugs. Then got to disconnect my fuel line there. Alright, I got my fuel line disconnected, and I went ahead and cut my ground wire here. Now, we got to take our linkages off. On the throttle linkage back here, you've got this little black plastic clip. Okay, you'll just push it over, just like that. Let me get my flashlight. I'm not smart enough to turn the light on my camera. See how all that does is it clips onto your throttle linkage to hold it on. So you just push it over, take your throttle spring out, this just pulls right out. Alright. Now when you go to slide it off, you'll have to do a little rotating motion. See where it sits in right here? So when you pull it out, you have to pull it out and twist it up. Pull it off into the studs. You see there? And just twist up. Alright, before we go any further, we're going to make sure we put our intake gasket on there. This one came with a few, came with two. Alright, and then now just do everything in reverse except one thing you got to remember to do. Okay, this is where your throttle linkage goes, right? Alright, on all of these, well, all of them, and I've done probably 6 this year so far, all of these Kohler Courage, Kohler 7000 replacement carburetors, they want you to, they want you to have to reinstall that grommet. So right here, you've got this little plastic grommet that your throttle linkage goes in. So all you're going to do is take you some needle noses, you'll pinch that together, and then that'll come out, and you'll swap it into that one, and then you just going to do everything in reverse. Something I didn't realize, I actually had already cut that little stop there. Normally it comes out a good bit further. Now something else to keep in mind. Normally there's a, and this is what made me realize, oh, I've worked on this carburetor or got it ready to install. Usually there's a Welch plug right here. All right, if you can see, there's a jet under there. That's your main jet. They don't want you to know that's there. All right, you need to plug that out, take you a little drill bit, a little punch, and just knock that out. All right, if in the future if it gets a little buildup in here and it goes to surging, or a rough idle, just needs more fuel, you can turn this counterclockwise and that's going to give it more fuel and it'll run a lot better. So all I like is putting this choke rod on, and then we're good to start reinstalling. Alright, let me zoom this in. Alright, so make sure you put your spring back on, that clip's back on your throttle linkage, and don't forget your outside gasket here. Now I've got to flush this fuel system, so a good bit more to do, but you know how to do everything else reverse, putting everything back together. But as for me, I'm going to redo all this fuel line, flush the fuel system, all that good stuff. So gives you a good idea. But yeah, those two things about taking that out, you'll be glad you did that one day when it needs adjusted. And then, like I said, if you do not clip that little bar right there, see where this linkage is, because normally that little stop, that little metal stop, it comes out a good bit further, and it'll get caught on it, and you won't have, it won't fully choke. So all right, hope that helps.